This is your radio, Cayman.
For the record, proudly brought to you by
Coca-Cola. Available across the Cayman Islands from Tortuga Distributors. Accept no substitutes. Taste the feeling with Coca-Cola. Brand Source Home Gallery. Inspiring luxury. West Bay Pharmacy. Taking care of your health. And JN Money.
From abroad to yard.
Fast, affordable, convenient. Doctor's Hospital. Peace of mind is important when life happens. Doctor's Hospital. Always there for you. Call 949-6066. And the Ministry of Sustainability and Climate Resiliency. Visit energy.gov.ky or follow the National Energy Policy on Facebook and Instagram. And by the STEPS 2023 National Health Survey. Visit gov.ky/steps to learn more. And Cayman Airways. Call them on 949-2311 to book your nonstop flights to Los Angeles and Panama.
This is For the Record with Orrett Connor.
Coming to you live from Radio Cayman Studio.
For the record.
For the record. For the record. Hear from your government officials, independents, and the opposition on issues that matter to you. For the record. Engage in an open dialogue between residents and lawmakers.
For the record.
For the record. For the record. Informative, impartial, insightful.
This is your talk show.
1-800-534-8255. Your calls, your input. This is For the Record. And now, your host, Orrett Connor.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. O land of soft, fresh breezes and verdant trees, so fair. Today is Wednesday, the 31st day of May 2023, right here in the beautiful Cayman Islands. We do hope and trust that everyone had a restful, peaceful, enjoyable evening. Those of you who are on the roads of the Cayman Islands, they're extremely wet this morning, and if it's raining, it means that your visibility will be reduced as well. So please ensure that you adjust your driving habits to suit the conditions that you're facing on our roads. Remember, if you follow the rules of the road, the life you save may just be your own. For those of you who are celebrating a birthday today, we want to wish you a happy birthday, or if you celebrated one over the past few days, a belated happy birthday to you as well. And to remind you that this segment of the For the Record birthday shoutouts are proudly brought to you by More Than Words, your gateway to local books and more. Connect to your culture, tap into your roots. More Than Words, located on the second floor of the Thompson building. Those of you who have lost loved ones, again, we want to extend our sincere condolences to you. We hope and we trust that your faith will help to carry you through these extremely challenging times, and that the memories of your loved ones will be a blessing to you as well. Those of you who are ill and are either at home or at a medical facility here in the Cayman Islands or overseas, we wish you a speedy recovery. I'm going to dispense with the rest of my opening monologue because we do have a full studio this morning. We're talking about something extremely important, so we'll just recognize some of the birthday shout-outs that we have. Mr. Sean H.C. Ebanks celebrating his birthday today, and also Miss Junie Martin. She is celebrating a birthday today, so we want to wish happy birthday to Sean H.C. Ebanks and Miss Junie Martin as well. Okay, so folks, we know that June 1st is the start of the hurricane season, and NOAA, their outlook for the 2023 Atlantic hurricane season, which runs, of course, from the 1st of June until the 30th of November, they're predicting a 40% chance of a near normal season, a 30% chance of an above normal season, and a 30% chance of a below normal season as well. So I guess they're making sure that they cover all of their bets. I want to make sure that they hedge all of their bets. But, of course, it is not an accurate science, and even though they're getting pretty good at it, and as each year goes by, their predictions become more and more accurate as well. So, in the studio this morning, we have members of our various enforcement entities in the Cayman Islands, but they are also a part of the management part of our disaster management. Rather than me introducing them, we're going to go around the table and have each one introduce themselves, tell us what their role in a normal situation is, and also when it comes to disaster management, what their roles and their particular entities that they represent as well. So, gentlemen, I'm going to start on my left, and we're going to go around the table.
Good morning, Mr. Connor. My name is Lieutenant Colonel Roger Carter, and I'm the new commanding officer of the Cayman Islands Regiment.
Okay.
I've been here about a little over a month now, so I'm, in a sense, the new kid on the block. So the regiment, our role really is disasters. So I'm not sure if we have a role outside of disasters and emergencies. So we really spend our time preparing for when bad things happen. Because when bad things happen, that's when we really begin to work hard. So we're very fortunate to have some very committed people who are there to assist us when disasters happen, and we have a wide variety of tasks that we do. We're very fortunate to have some good equipment to help us as well. And while our main role is really humanitarian assistance and disaster relief, and we also, in a sense, have a role assisting all of the other players at the table here and everybody else who works within the whole emergency management process.
Okay, thank you, and welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, Mr. Connor.
Good morning again.
Listening audience. My name is Robert Scotland. I'm the Commandant of the Cayman Islands Coast Guard. And in this particular role, I am the manager responsible for what is known as the Emergency Response Cluster.
Good morning, Mr. Connor.
Good morning.
Superintendent Roger Williams. I am responsible for major events and major emergency planning. So my role on a daily basis also encompasses the planning for hurricane season. As part of the hurricane plans and the deployment, I'm responsible for security and law enforcement and ensuring staff are where they need to be pre and during and post deployment.
Okay.
All right. Good morning, Mr. Connor.
Good morning.
And good morning to all the listeners. Shamal Clark, a forecaster with the Cayman Islands National Weather Service. I'll echo similar sentiments to the partner from the regiment in the sense that my typical role is providing weather forecasts, issuing warnings, weather notifications. But during this season, I'll also be briefing the emergency council as well, still on weather updates and exactly what to expect a tropical storm scenario. So that's
excellent.
Good morning, Mr. Connor.
Good morning.
Good morning, Cayman. I'm Henry Banks, Station Manager, Cayman Islands Fire Service. I guess I can say we do it all. We're always there, Cayman, when you need us. The fire department is also part of the search and rescue cluster that Mr. Scotland spoke about.
Excellent. So, I think a good point for us to start, Mr. Clark, is with weather, and the importance of people following, especially when there's an approaching storm, to just continue to monitor the airwaves. What you do here in the Cayman Islands, we know that because of the various media platforms that we have, sometimes people will rely on outside information, and we always try to stress that you should really listen to your local weather. I'm sure that some of our listeners may have some concerns about the weather radar, and you may be able to talk about that, or maybe later on your boss will be here and we'll talk about the radar as well. I think it is blown out of proportion in terms of the radar when sometimes it is down, because you have other means at your disposal to deal with that. But that may be above your pay grade, so we may leave that. But let's talk about weather prediction, what people should be doing. here in the Cayman Islands.
All right, so thank you again. Definitely, you started with a good point in terms of source of information, and it was one of the concerns I was hoping to raise this morning as well. And with everybody having a smartphone and access to global model data set, a lot of persons are experts these days. So they put out whatever they want to put out, and then persons tend to gravitate to the first bit of information they get. And that's not always, accurate, especially when you're talking 2 weeks out. The National Hurricane Center just went 7 days out in terms of their forecast for tropical storms and hurricanes. So that should tell you in terms of the confidence in the data. So they actually ran a test phase before they went 7 days, before it was only 5 days. So to say to use information for outside of that period is questionably subjective. Mm-hmm. So we would definitely stress the importance of relying on the information from our National Weather Service, which takes what we call the global data set, and then we try and translate that to what it means for us locally. Mm-hmm. So then we'll give you more accurate information in terms of what's happening for the Cayman Islands. It might not come as fast as the others because they're not necessarily, caring about accuracy, whether or not it actually happens, but we are, especially for decision making and persons planning and persons prepping. So we'll stress the importance of actually relying on our information, and we will do our best to get it out as fast as possible. We've added a few new tools internally in terms of assessing, monitoring, and we'll try to use those to ensure that persons have information, a little bit faster. But not only just faster, but in terms of the quality of the information as well, so persons feel more comfortable relying on our information. Definitely want to stress that even though NOAA put out a 40% chance for average and 30 for below and above average, the situation is the same as it is for any hurricane season. Yes. It only takes one, and that could happen at any point in time. To stress the importance of being prepared. Being in the know, following the updates for the local media sources, just to stay abreast of what's happening during the hurricane season. So I think that's the two notes I want to start on.
Okay, great. We're going to take a commercial break, gentlemen. Folks, when we return, the conversation will continue. We have representatives here from the Cadet Corps. We have the commander for the Cayman Islands Coast Guard. We have representation from the Royal Cayman Islands Police Service. You just heard Mr. Clark from the National Weather Service. And we have representative from the Cayman Islands Fire Service as well. Of course, we're talking about the upcoming hurricane season, which starts tomorrow, the 1st of June. Please stay tuned. For the record, we'll be back shortly.
The Cayman Islands boasts of a long, colorful, and rich history. In tribute to our roots, Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands, is pleased to bring you the Historical Vignette Series. Brought to you by Rotary Central. For more than 110 years, Rotary members have used their passion, energy, and intelligence to take action on sustainable projects. The Cayman Islands, he hath founded it upon the seas.
Alfred Biddle Bodden, JP. Alfred Bodden was affectionately known as AB. He worked as a seaman for some years and sent money home to support his family. Upon returning from sea, he started his own business, a general store. He was also a farmer and butcher, cultivating various crops to provide for his family and help the poor, while also creating jobs for members of his community. He was elected vestryman for the District of Bordentown in 1948 and served 2 terms in the Assembly. He was one of the first merchants in Bordentown and the first in the island to obtain a liquor license. He traveled to Jamaica to sign the trade agreement to export thatch rope. A member of the Bordentown Church of God Chapel, he gave financial support to the churches of the district as well as to the less fortunate.
Radio Cayman's Historical Vignettes was brought to you by Rotary Central. For more than 110 years, Rotary members have used their passion, energy, and intelligence to take action on sustainable projects.
Since 1993, Rotary Central has worked diligently each year to provide quality bus shelters to our community. A traveling convenience to our school children, the elderly, young people going to work, guest workers, and visitors using the public bus. We, Rotary Central, help you, our advertisers, make it happen. Your marketing dollar travels a far way. Positioning your message, your product, your services, your presence in over 83 bus shelters. Every dollar you spend, every advert you place helps to build another bus shelter, providing modest comfort for Cayman travelers. Reserve space now on the only billboard medium in the Cayman Islands. Email rotaryshelters@gmail.com. rotaryshelters@gmail.com. The Bus Shelters, a partner in community convenience. Another inspiration program by Rotary Central Cayman Islands.
More Than Words, your gateway to local books and more. Connect to your culture. Tap into your roots. More Than Words bookstore in the Thompson Building. Supplies local books, gifts, trinkets, keepsakes, wall plaques, and journals. The hub for local authors. More Than Words. So much more. More Than Words is now open. Shop number 4, second floor Thompson Building. Or call 936-5544.
I tell you what, I need to find a way to bring my electricity costs down. I don't want to see another high bill next month.
Have you tried doing an energy audit?
A what?
An energy audit. The do-it-yourself energy audits on energy.gov.ky make it easy to find ways to save energy and money in your home or business.
Oh yeah? I'm going to log on to that website right now. What was it again?
Visit energy.gov.ky to download do-it-yourself energy audits for your home or business. There is even a fun activity guide for kids.
Complete an energy audit of your home or business before 31st of May 2023 to be entered into a prize giveaway. Prizes include a $5,000 gift certificate to Home Gas and gift certificates to Cooling Pros, Foam Pros, Costulest, and Foster's.
Visit energy.gov.ky today and follow the National Energy Policy on Facebook and Instagram.
At Doctors Hospital, we know life happens, and usually when you least expect it. So when unexpected medical issues arise, you need quality care close to home. Located in the heart of Georgetown, our accomplished team of physicians and medical staff treat minor urgent conditions such as migraines, chest and abdominal pain, shortness of breath, burns, broken bones, open wounds, and more. 24 hours, 7 days a week with no appointment necessary. Peace of mind is important when life happens. At Doctors Hospital, we're always here just for you. Need to speak to someone? Call 949-6066.
What exactly are the steps in the STEPS 2023 National Health Survey? Step 1 is a questionnaire where you'll be asked about your health behaviors and lifestyle choices. Step 2 involves home measurements like height, weight, and blood pressure. Lastly, Step 3 is a finger prick blood sample for cholesterol and glucose. STEPS 2023 starts on June 3rd. Learn more by logging on to www.gov.ky/steps.
Your dream home starts with a vision, and often inspiration is at the heart of that vision. Brand Source Home Gallery's in-house designers are here to help bring your vision to life. Whether you're remodeling or building a new home, Brand Source Home Gallery is your one-stop solution. Explore their kitchen cabinets, sinks, faucets, bath fixtures, tubs, vanities, and more. Let Brand Source's designers help and inspire you with your next project. Call 623-5000 and schedule an appointment with a design expert at Brand Source Home Gallery, Dorsey Drive, Industrial Park, serving Cayman for 50 years.
System 1 loaded. 1-800-534-8255. What is on your mind when it comes to the government, independence, and the opposition? Issues that matter to you. 1-800-534-8255. Waiting to hear from you. For the Record.
This is For the Record with Orrett Connor.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. We're talking about the upcoming hurricane season, which begins tomorrow, the 1st of June. We have representatives from the various entities that form what is called clusters. First of all, my apologies for misrepresenting the Cayman Islands Regiment. I think I call them the Cadet Corps, and my apologies for that. We're going to have Commander Scotland introduce to you the whole concept of clusters, what it's all about, and then we will have each representative around the table give a brief synopsis of what their responsibilities entail. Just want to say to our listening and viewing audience as well, We won't open up the phone lines because there's so much that we have to talk about, but we will welcome any questions or comments. You do that by either sending us an email at fortherecord@candw.ky or WhatsApp us 925-3261. Commander Scotland.
Thanks for that, OC. So in the event that the National Emergency Operations Center is activated, it's comprised of 4 different clusters. Those clusters are emergency response, support services, human concerns, and infrastructure. Within each of those clusters, there are a number of emergency support teams. The particular group around the table comes from the emergency response cluster. And the emergency response cluster is responsible for evacuation, search and rescue, and security and law enforcement. I'll let the other representatives speak to their particular responsibilities within those areas. Each of the representatives are representing the support team, the emergency support team that sits within the cluster.
Okay. Why don't we start with fire?
Yeah, thank you. So from a fire perspective, what we do, once it's clear enough for us to go out, we can't risk our guys as well. So we go out and we search and rescue, locate missing persons, also to assist people from low-lying areas.
Mm-hmm. And the mere fact that you do that, we know you do search and rescue as part of your daily work, but you have specialist equipment and everything that allows you to be focused on that.
Yes, sir, we do. We actually have small boats, small inflatable boats that we use, especially for the low-lying areas that we have. So we have that. Of course, the equipment that we use versus water rescue versus fire rescue. So we have different equipment for that as well.
Okay. Why don't we go over to the regiment then, since I, sort of like...
Thank you, Mr. Connor. Well, the regiment is a new entity on the block, and you find that what we do, in a sense, crosses some boundaries. Mainly, I think, what we do falls under the... we fall under HMCI here. And so we do a variety of things, including clearing of routes. So we have some JCBs that we use to move rubble, as well as our people. We go out there with our chainsaws. We cut trees that have fallen and move them out of the way, that kind of thing. Because we also have medically trained people, we help the emergency medical services. We support fire with search and rescue if needed. So by and large, what we are is, in a sense, an opportunity to build capacity in all of the other organizations to do their job. It's very hard to build capacity in the short term when something happens, and the regiment is there to support everyone else. So we also, try to train with them so we can help them when the time comes.
Okay. Mr. Williams?
Hi. Yes. So the RCIPS, obviously, for security and law enforcement, we do a lot of preparation before the storm, and that's the main aim, to ensure that we are prepared. So from a security and law enforcement perspective, what we do, we ensure that first and foremost, I have to say that there are many lessons that have been learned from Hurricane Ivan, and in terms of deployment and for all around the table here. So from Hurricane Ivan, what has been done over the years is refine a plan, an operational plan, that we can ensure that if a disaster befalls us, then we are able to respond in any part of our community. So when we look at the overall plan, we see that in every facet of the Cayman Islands, in terms of boundaries and communities, we have law enforcement structure set up. So in the event, and as we know from Ivan, there was one part of the island temporarily cut off, and what we've reviewed in terms of our plan is to ensure that no community would be without security and law enforcement. So in effect, we want to make sure that business continues. So there's a lot of effort on business continuity in terms of how we service the public and continue that all the way through in the event of a hurricane.
Okay, so Commander Scotland, we'll have you, and then we're going to have the Met Service have the final say before we go to our news.
Okay, so within the cluster, what we have right now is the persons represented in the room are actually head of their their entity. And that the cluster is responsible for coordinating the response of the various units within their departments within the plan. I think you've probably seen video shot during emergencies where the media will focus on various clusters. Yes. So the information coming in through the call takers, who are actually part of the Cadet Corps. So the Cadet Corps does form part of the national response to hazards. The calls come into them and they dispatch it to the relevant cluster. Naturally, if it's security, law enforcement, evacuation, or law enforcement, they will come to our cluster. And from within that cluster, we will determine the best resources to deploy to those. As Mr. Carter said, if a call for search and rescue or flooding in a low-lying area comes in, fire is normally dispatched to that, but they will be supported by the regiment. If there's a call for shelters, because RCIPS are also responsible for, they also have a role to play within shelter management. The regiment supports them there. So as Colonel Carter said, the regiment provides a lot of support to the various entities. My role within the cluster is as the cluster manager. So I guess it's responsible for coordinating those efforts and then reporting back to the NEOC or the National Emergency Operations Center manager as to the activities that this cluster is doing. I also work in support of the other cluster managers that I mentioned before, so support services, human concerns.
Excellent, excellent. So let's get back to the weather. Let's talk to Mr. Shamal Clark from the National Weather Service.
Yeah, so after all of that exciting stuff that everyone does, there's I guess so much I can say at this point in terms of the weather more than just to be prepared. But I want to say that the prediction for a below average, and I know initially because some of the predictions had below average as well. And a lot of persons are saying, oh, it's going to be normal, it's going to be below average, but reading more into what that means would probably open person's eyes a little bit more in terms of it's banking on the fact that they're transitioning from a neutral to an El Nino year, and that's questionable in terms of the strength of the El Nino event. But then there is also the factor of warm sea surface temperatures in the Atlantic, and if that is more significant than whatever wind shear the El Nino event will present, then we end up with an average or I guess above average, which is why I guess when conservative in terms of their forecast, because it's hard at this point in time to say. And at the end of the day, there's a concept of rapid intensification. We saw that in I think that was Grace a couple of years ago, from a tropical storm to a hurricane just west of us. So this concept of rapid intensification happens, and it could happen at any point in time. So we do stress that persons do, especially during our watch phase, alert phase, keep abreast with as much information as possible.
Okay. Very quickly before we go to our news, I'm a little bit over, but between Hurricane Ivan and now, what would you say in terms of your capabilities, in terms of prediction and the tools that you have at your disposal? After what was it, 2004 and now 19 years? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a leap. It's a huge jump in terms of capabilities. One of the big things with forecasting has been the ability to accurately forecast rainfall amounts. And then that has improved significantly. There is also improvement in terms of storm surge. I know I think this is out there already, but they're working on storm surge modeling for the Cayman Islands soon. Hopefully we'll start that process next year. We will be able to forecast with storm surge as well. So there's a significant leap in terms of our forecasting capability, as well as our observational capabilities, including the weather radar and high resolution satellite data. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you very much, folks. Top of the hour, 8 o'clock news. When we return, more talk about the upcoming hurricane season, which starts tomorrow, 1st of June. Please stay tuned for the record. We'll be back immediately after the 8 o'clock news.
Thank you, Mr. Connor. And studio time now by Foster's is 2 minutes after 8.
So it's your turn to cook tonight. What are we having?
Well, we have chicken thighs, pork chop, sirloin steak, ground chicken, or beef stir fry.
Wow, so many options.
Yeah, I got them from the Foster's Pick 5 selection. You can choose any 5 specially marked packs for $19.99. The meat is always fresh and never previously frozen. It's the perfect way to stock up for the week.
So all of this only costs $19.99?
It sure did.
Pick 5 is available at all locations and selection may vary between stores. Foster's, better value because we care.
The voice of the Cayman Islands.
89.9 FM in Grand Cayman and 93.9 FM in Cayman Brac and Little Cayman.
Silver wings shining in the sunlight.
Radio Cayman.
The 8 a.m. news is brought to you by ValueMed Pharmacy. Save time and order your prescription refills online at value-medpharmacy.com. VALU-medpharmacy.com.
For today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
With your latest news, I'm Carsley Fuller. Airports Authority CEO Albert Anderson says safety is the most important priority when it comes to upgrades. With Owen Roberts International Airport managing some 26,000 air traffic movements in 2019 alone and a 1% to 2% growth expected per year, he says it's time to modernize.
This traffic is managed by some very skilled air traffic controllers that we have, and they use a manual method called procedural control. From an air safety perspective, we've now reached a point where modern surveillance systems are necessary, and this project, therefore, is a top priority.
That project is part of a package of upgrades announced Tuesday. Mr. Anderson says the new system will utilize an automatic dependent surveillance broadcast, or ADS-B system, as well as radar, and will enable air traffic controllers to have more precise data on the location of aircraft, providing for less separation between aircraft and improved operational safety and efficiency. It's a week brimming with activities for local art enthusiasts. CIGTV's Donna Bush reports.
Cayman Art Week is set to begin this week with more than 40 events across 5 days and on our 3 islands. Most galleries, studios, and pop-up exhibitions are open daily, so visitors can go there at their leisure throughout the Cayman Art Week. Now, each day focuses on a different district with special events, and hop-on, hop-off buses will make it easier to visit the different venues. The 5 days of events will be filled with amazing forms of art created by the many local artists here at home and abroad. To take a look at the Cayman Art Week calendar of events, you can find it online at caymanartweek.com.
The National Gallery is taking advantage of Art Week.
But the gallery is launching its big Cayman Islands Biennial during Cayman Art Week, so there'll be a special reception on the Wednesday evening. That's the 31st of May. So again, if you're interested in joining that night, which will have probably 50 artists on display, the Biennial is that multi-island, multi-site, 4-month exhibition. It's the biggest single exhibition that Cayman produces.
National Gallery Director and founder of Art Week, Natalie Urquhart, is encouraging all residents to visit the exhibition during the 4-month run. Now with a check of international news, here's the BBC, which will take us out of the newscast. I'm Carsley Fuller from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
BBC News with Moira Alderson. The UN War Crimes Tribunal for the former Yugoslavia has given its final ruling in its last case. It increased jail terms for 2 Serbian officials who trained death squads. Jovica Stanisic and Franko Simatovic will now serve 15 years rather than their original sentence of 12. After a legal process lasting 2 decades. The governor of Russia's Belgorod region, bordering Ukraine, has announced the evacuation of 300 children as cross-border attacks increase. They'll be taken to the city of Voronezh, about 250 kilometres further into Russia. Sudanese officials say the army has suspended ceasefire talks with the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces. It accuses the group of repeatedly violating previous truce agreements. The mayor of the South Korean capital, Seoul, has apologised for confusion caused by an alert issued to millions of residents after a failed North Korean missile launch. Pyongyang was trying to put a spy satellite into space. Japan's parliament has approved a bill to allow nuclear reactors to operate beyond their current 60-year limit. The government wants to ensure electricity supplies as it reduces its dependency on fossil fuels. Human Rights Watch has called on the Kenyan authorities to urgently investigate police abuse. It's criticised them for a lack of action over the recent deaths of protesters. The award-winning Ghanaian writer Ama Ata Edu has died. She was 81. The author, poet, playwright and academic was an influential feminist who also spoke about the exploitation of the African continent. An official in central India who ordered an entire reservoir to be drained because he'd dropped his phone in the water while taking a selfie at a dam has been fined. Rajesh Vishwash did get his phone back, but it was unusable. That's the latest world news from the BBC.
The 8 a.m. news is brought to you by ValueMed Pharmacy. Save time and order your prescription refills online at value-medpharmacy.com. VALU-medpharmacy.com.
Now, more than ever, supporting your immune system is crucial to helping your body fight off illnesses like the common cold, the flu, and COVID-19. At ValueMed Pharmacy on Walkers Road and in Boddentown, we carry all the essential vitamins and minerals to help support your immune system and improve your overall health. Some of our top immunity support picks are vitamin C, vitamin D, zinc, elderberry, and quercetin, or the popular 7-in-1 immunity support. Our pharmacists are always on hand to help guide you and answer any questions. Visit ValueMed Pharmacy on Walkers Road or Boddentown. Live happy, live healthy with ValueMed Pharmacy.
Stay in touch with Radio Cayman with the latest up-to-date, accurate news and information. For your convenience, the headline news will be repeated on our sister station, Breeze 105.3 FM, weekdays at 8:30 a.m. Follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or download the Radio Cayman app in the App Store or log on to www.radiocayman.gov.ky and stay connected to what's happening in the community. Radio Cayman, your voice, your choice, your radio.
You deserve a unique vacation this year, one with easy non-stop flights from Cayman. Cayman Airways offers more non-stop flights to and from the Cayman Islands than any other airline. Now you can add Panama and Los Angeles to your travel bucket list. Skip the hassle of connecting flights. Panama is just a 2-hour non-stop flight from Cayman. And Los Angeles? Get there in less than 5 hours non-stop aboard Cayman Airways. Call 949-2311 or visit CaymanAirways.com to book your Los Angeles or Panama getaway today.
Tune in every Monday through Friday at 12 p.m. for Radio Cayman's Midday Newscast. Radio Cayman, the People's Station, your trusted official source for the latest news. The 12 p.m. news is proudly brought to you by Health City Cayman Islands. World-class healthcare within your reach.
In celebration of the 50th anniversary of the Department of Lands and Survey, land register rectification fees have been temporarily waived. Property owners now have the ability to amend land registers for free until July 30th. Updating your land register improves communication, provides legal protection, makes property transactions easier, and protects against fraud. Keeping your current legal name and addresses updated is required on your land register, and now you can do it for free until July 30th. For more information, contact Lands and Survey at registry.info@gov.ky or call 244-3420.
The 8:12 a.m. weather report brought to you by CG Britcay, where people come first.
Good morning. Let's take a look at the latest weather report. Current temperature is 80 degrees. Relative humidity is 88%. The barometric pressure, 29.86 inches and rising. The wind is out of the southwest at 7 knots. Overnight low temperature was 77 degrees. Synopsis indicate cloudiness and scattered showers expected to continue for the next 24 to 36 hours due to an interaction between a weak pressure gradient at the surface and an upper level trough near western Honduras. Radar images show scattered showers in and around the Cayman area, drifting towards the northeast. Now the forecast for today calling for cloudy to overcast skies with intermittent showers expected for most of the day, with thunderstorms likely to occur this afternoon. Showers will be locally heavy at times, leading to some flooding of low-lying areas. Temperatures will rise to the mid-80s. Winds will be south to southeast at 10 to 15 knots. Seas will be slight with wave heights of 1 to 3 feet. Tonight, pretty much the same. Cloudy skies with a 60% chance of showers and possible thunder. And temperatures dipping to the mid-70s tonight. Winds will be south to southeast at 10 to 15 knots. And seas will be slight with wave heights of 1 to 3 feet. Low tide will be this afternoon at 11 minutes past 1. High tide tonight at 4 minutes after 8. The sun will set this evening at 6:58 and will rise tomorrow morning at 5:47. And the outlook is calling for similar weather conditions through tomorrow night, a gradual improvement in cloudiness and a decrease in chance of showers expected from Friday morning. That's the very latest on your weather report.
Mommy, why can't dogs talk? Why do I have to go to school and you don't? Why do you sing in the morning when you're bad at it? Why don't you brush your teeth when you take me to school? Why doesn't it ever snow here? Why does Daddy take the bus to work? Why are trees so tall? Why don't you tell me where babies come from? Mommy, Mommy, Mommy!
We're like a kid that doesn't ask a million questions before noon. CG Britke. Good like that.
The 8:12 a.m. weather report brought to you by CG Britke, where people come first.
During these unprecedented times, Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands, is pleased to bring you the Cayman Strong Series. The Cayman Strong Series is brought to you by Encourse Cayman. Visit encourse.ky to view a full list of wellness services and their qualified team. Encourse Cayman, health, wellness, and happiness.
Change your thinking. Change your life. Developing the giver's mindset can bolster any relationship.
As motivational speaker Tony Robbins said, some of the biggest challenges in relationships come from the fact that most people enter a relationship in order to get something. They're trying to find someone who's going to make them feel good. In reality, the only way a relationship will last is if you see a relationship as a place that you go to give and not only a place that you go to take.
Change your thinking. Change your life.
During these unprecedented times, Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands, is pleased to bring you the Cayman Strong Series. The Cayman Strong Series is brought to you by Encourse Cayman. Visit encourse.ky to view a full list of wellness services and their qualified team. Encourse Cayman, health, wellness, and happiness.
These days, feelings of loneliness, anxiety, stress, and depression can be overwhelming. Just know you are not alone. Encourse Cayman offers private mental health services for children, teens, adults, and groups. Visit encourse.ky to view a full list of wellness services and their qualified team. Encourse Cayman, health, wellness, and happiness.
The traffic report is brought to you by Subway. Planning a meeting, event, or office celebration? Visit subway.ky to place your catering order today.
Good morning. Let's take a look at what's happening on the roads. Roads are wet, so please drive with extra caution. Coming off of the Esteli Tibbetts Highway, traffic is bumper to bumper, busy traffic. Continuing on to North Sound Road, as we look to coming from the east on Shamrock Road, bumper to bumper traffic. Delays expected as you head on down to Georgetown. On the Linford Pearson Highway, bumper to bumper, traffic is busy coming off of Agnes Way as well as off of Bobby Thompson Way. Need a lot of patience this morning as you head on down to your final destination. On Cool Road heading to Georgetown, traffic is bumper to bumper. Heading east on Cool Road, traffic is moving on moderately. Please drive with your lights on. Extremely heavy traffic coming down in the West Bay Road area. Increased distance between vehicles and look out for pedestrians as well. Maybe no pedestrians because of a lot of rain, but of course there's also extra traffic that will be on the road because of the rain coming down. From the West Bay 4-way stop, traffic is moving on moderately. And that's what's happening on your roads. If you see any accidents or incidents on Cayman's roads, give us a call here at Radio Cayman, 949-6990, and be safe out there.
From boat days to beach gatherings, leave the catering to Subway. Choose from small and large sandwich platters, double meat wrap platters, and top it off with optional cookie platters for dessert. Or ask about our Subway box to go with the option of 6-inch or foot-long sandwich, 1 cookie, and 1 bag of chips. For all occasions and celebrations, let Subway focus on the food so you can focus on the fun. Visit subway.ky for catering options. Subway. Eat fresh.
The traffic report is brought to you by Subway. Planning a meeting, event, or office celebration? Visit subway.ky to place your catering order today.
One pack of cigarettes costs around $13. Let's add it up. 3 packs a day, 7 days a week for 52 weeks equals more than $13,000 a year. That's your dream vacation. That's a down payment to your plot of land. That's the cost for a full or partial renovation to your home, or even starting your own business. So you'd rather give up those dreams and ambitions to smoke? Really? Seriously. Smoking can cost you more than your savings. It can cost you your health. Join the Public Health Department's smoking cessation program by calling 244-2889 to register. Our next class begins May 31st. This message is brought to you by the Public Health Department in conjunction with the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
Mommy, why can't dogs talk? Why do I have to go to school and you don't? Why do you sing in the morning when you're bad at it? Why don't you brush your teeth when you take me to school? Why doesn't it ever snow here? Why does Daddy take the bus to work? Why are trees so tall? Why don't you tell me where babies come from? Mommy, Mommy, Mommy!
We're like a kid that doesn't ask a million questions before noon. CG Britke. Good like that.
For the record, with Orrett Connor.
Initiating system.
For information that matter. For the record, with Orrett Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning. Welcome back to For the Record. In the studio with me this morning, we have representatives from the various entities that have certain responsibilities when it comes to disasters and in particular hurricanes in the Cayman Islands. Before I pass the mic over to Commander Scotland, we're going to welcome Mr. Andrew McLaughlin into the studio with us. He represents the Cayman Islands Airport Authority. Mr. McLaughlin, good morning. No stranger to Radio Cayman in other capacities as well. Good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, Mr. Dosey, and thank you for having me here today.
Okay, and just talk a little bit about your responsibilities.
Well, it's twofold because under Mr. Scotland, we have the Evacuation Subcommittee, Emergency Support Team 7, which deals with evacuation. So under the Emergency Response Cluster, when the determination is made that we need to evacuate one or all of the islands, then that order is passed on to the airport, and we have what's called the Airport Mass Evacuation Committee. So it's twofold purposes. And I must say that at the airport, we've already practiced our hurricane plan this year, and just recently met with the evacuation subcommittee, and that consists of the consular representatives, CBC, and all the agencies that we would need assistance from to get people off the islands.
Excellent. Commander Scotland, over to you, sir.
Thanks again, OC. Before we left, we were talking about the weather, and we can't overstress the importance of the weather, especially in the decision-making process, leading into when to evacuate, issuing of early warnings, down to issuing the preparedness notices, boarding up flags, boarding up of government buildings, basically the activation of our respective departmental plans, but also the national plan. Likewise, during the event, constant feeds from the Weather Service give us an idea of what's taking place outside. It gives us an idea of when to issue the warnings for persons to come off the road, and also when winds start to subside, when the emergency services can actually start to go back out to do their damage assessments. So a lot of people may not think that the weather plays an important role, but it's probably one of the main drivers in helping us determine our response and when to respond, where to respond.
Excellent, excellent. One of our listeners reflected on after Hurricane Ivan and talking about security issues, and they point out that there was some looting that transpired, especially and in many instances people weren't looking for things that would sustain them, even though one of the things that they mentioned, some people may look at that as sustenance, but liquor stores were looted, as well as jewelry stores were looted after Hurricane Ivan. And we know that the Royal Cayman Islands Police Service, their resources were stretched. As a matter of fact, I believe the commissioner was caught off island and stuck in terms of his ability to return to the island at some point in time, as well. But they wanted to know about the security measures that would be in place. Yes.
Yeah. So, hello, Cayman again. Superintendent Roger Williams here. So, yeah, lessons learned from Hurricane Ivan. What the major difference is now is that we have what's called sub-police stations. So it's not just in Georgetown, as an example. Everyone would know Georgetown Police Station. However, within the Georgetown district, we have at least 6 sub-police stations. What that means is that all various pockets and communities have an immediate response, and those are the lessons learned from Hurricane Ivan. The biggest thing is stressing is the preparedness for everyone, including the Royal Cayman Islands Police Service. So we ensure that from an organization perspective, if something happens or a disaster befalls us, then we can then go out into the community immediately post hurricane and manage the various critical points of our island. So from my perspective, when we reflect to Hurricane Ivan, a lot of lessons was learnt. Just yesterday, finalized our full deployment plan to ensure that every community, in effect, has an immediate police response. So if there's a thought that there will be looting, then people will immediately see police officers once the hurricane or once the all clear, or even before the all clear is given.
Okay. Mr. McLaughlin, we have seen the population of the Cayman Islands increase significantly. And while there's always encouragement and the priority given to getting tourists off the island, because most of them are located in near the beach or on the beach, but we have a large working population in the Cayman Islands as well. We know that when it comes to housing, they're not all living in ideal situations. Does that make evacuation any more challenging, or how does it make it more challenging for you?
Definitely more challenging. And first off, my apologies to Commander Scotland. We've worked together a long time, and I know he's earned that title. But taking everything that you said into account, we also have to take into account that we don't have an airport the size of Miami International. So it is of a great concern. And all I can say is that the public, including the workers, the people who are not indigenous to the Cayman Islands, they need to pay close attention to the advice that's coming from Hazard Management and the Cayman Islands government on when to start leaving the island in the event of a storm and how bad the storm could be. We have a beautiful plan that is agreed to by all the agencies on how we will conduct the evacuation, and it basically centered on ensuring that you have a reservation on an aircraft, a scheduled flight that day. Because there was some concerns in the past, a lesson learned from Ivan, that maybe a certain group of people had a priority, and in the airlines' eyes, that's not the case. They go by who has paid for their ticket. So it's very important that they follow along with what is going on and the information coming from the Cayman Islands government and Hazard Management on when they should start thinking about leaving the island or finding better places to ride the storm out.
Okay. Any advice for the private sector? Because we see some companies have the financial and other wherewithal to evacuate their foreign staff, not only their foreign staff, but even their local staff to relocate them as well. What type of coordination do we have in place in relation to that, as well as for business continuity? I'm not sure whether or not any of these clusters here are responsible for that, or if we will have others coming on the show later on this morning that will talk about business continuity and things. But we do know that as far as evacuation is concerned, that you're involved in that. And after Hurricane Ivan, we did see several charters and private flights with companies taking their employees off island.
Yeah, exactly. And just yesterday we discussed this. Part of the evacuation EST 7 is the Civil Aviation Authority, and those companies have already been prompted. They can contact Ms. Nicola McCoy, and they actually have already started a list of those companies that intend to have chartered flights to take their employees or their workers out of town. More importantly, every organization, we do it at the airport every year, you need to ask people at the beginning or prior to the beginning of hurricane season, do you have a spouse that falls in that category? Because you can't count on them. They are more than likely going to leave with their spouse. So it's important that each company understands, for business continuity purposes, who's staying and who's going to leave. And if you're staying, where you're staying, because some people already know they're not staying in their house, but they're going to go to grandma's house because it's higher up. Yeah.
Okay, we're going to go over to the fire service and Commander Scotland. Any other entity that you want to identify in relation to evacuation? And we know that people will not heed the evacuation orders. Can we talk a little bit about whether or not we have mandatory legislation in place where you can mandatorily order people to evacuate, and the fire service and others as well? What sort of risk exposure that your staff may be exposed to, using the same word twice, but be exposed to when they have to attend situations where people have not heeded the call to get to higher ground or whatever, and then you have to risk the safety and the lives of your personnel.
So, Mr. Connor, I'll take the first part and then hand it over. In regards to business continuity, it's the responsibility of each person, each family, and each business to have a business continuity plan or an emergency evacuation plan or hurricane plan. And we encourage each person to review that plan prior to the beginning of hurricane season and then test it at least once. Going to evacuation, I think it's important that people in Cayman, especially persons who expect to travel to the U.S. on their UK passport who may not have a U.S. visa, to remember that private aircraft, if you have a UK passport, you're not going to be able to travel on the private aircraft to get into the United States. So again, you need to put in place plans around that. And if you're expecting to get a waiver, the government offices will be inundated. So you're going to add extra burden to the system as it is. I'll hand over to Roger regarding your question around the legality of forcibly moving people, and then over to fire.
Yeah, I think the answer is obvious. We can give the best advice that we can, and that's why we are here today, to give the best advice. There is legislation in place, however, but it stops short of taking hands-on and pulling people out of their houses. So, we have the Emergency Powers Act, we have obviously the Police Act, we have the Disaster Preparedness and Hazard Management Act, and other various statutes which guide, disaster and help with us in terms of security and law enforcement, search and rescue, etc. However, the advice is to take heed, look at the various PRs that go out, look at the CaymanPrepared.com website. You can also even look at the RCIPS website and also the RCIPS app. We will provide the updates and what and where and the weather service as well it's important that we take heed. And I know one of the comments that came out from certainly last year, I think it was Hurricane Ian, was that, we always prepare and it never comes. The thing is as my colleague from the weather service said, it only takes one.
Yes.
And that is why emergency services, and there is a threshold, because at 40 miles an hour, emergency services essentially will not be coming out. We'll make it clear. There is a cutoff, because we have to also take into consideration the safety of the staff, because if our staff get injured, and I think everyone here would agree, then we have no response post-hurricane. So it's important to understand that if you have evacuation notices or advice within your areas, and then there's a few areas I can think of, and I know hazard management will come on shortly after, and you're gonna wait until the last minute, it's highly likely that the decision will be made not to come if it puts our staff at risk. And I think the same for fire and all the colleagues around here.
Okay, let's hear from Steve Banks.
Yeah, well, I just want to echo what Superintendent Williams said. When we're out there, people who don't heed the evacuation warnings, that if they're stuck, we have to go get them. We're exposing our guys to drowning, flying debris. The chief fire officer has the authority to say anything over 30 miles per hour that we're not supposed to go out, but it's a life at risk.
Mm-hmm.
So we may have to bypass that and go rescue someone who didn't take heed to go to a shelter. So it exposes the officers' equipment when the all clear is given. Mm-hmm. Then we don't have the personnel or the equipment to do any further rescues or assistance.
Excellent, thank you. Ms. Susan, you ready for me now? You okay? We're going to take a commercial break. Just before we go to the break, I just want to alert the representative from the regiment. When we return, I want you to talk a little bit. We know that there are other overseas territories who have regiments as well. We know that, for instance, after Hurricane Ivan, we got some valuable assistance from the Bermuda Regiment. And if we could talk a little bit about the coordination and any commitments that we would have in terms of seeking assistance from other overseas territories, or us rendering assistance to our fellow overseas territories as well. Folks, please stay tuned for the record. We'll be back shortly.
Heart disease, cancer, diabetes, and respiratory illnesses are among the top causes of death in Cayman every year. From June 3rd until July 31st, the Ministry of Health and Wellness will conduct the STEPS 2023 National Health Survey to better understand the prevalence of non-communicable diseases within our nation. Log on to www.gov.ky/steps to learn more.
What's that? No sugar, same amazing taste? Coca-Cola Zero Sugar is here to stay. Classic taste, pure satisfaction. Be sure to stop into any Tortuga location and get your own case of Coke Zero. Or grab an ice cold one straight from the cooler. Brought to you by Tortuga Distributors Limited. Coca-Cola, taste the feeling, Cayman.
Are you feeling sick, but don't feel ill enough to go to the doctor? Ask your pharmacist for advice. Here at West Bay Pharmacy, our pharmacists have been trained to offer helpful, easy-to-understand advice on the treatment of everyday minor ailments for yourself and all the family. Anything from headaches, cough and sore throat, to cold sores, our pharmacists will know when medical help is needed and will not hesitate to refer you to your doctor if your symptoms demand it. Like doctors, our pharmacists have a professional code, which means all personal information you give them will be treated in the strictest confidence. Visit us today at West Bay Pharmacy, where we care about your health.
You deserve a unique vacation this year, one with easy non-stop flights from Cayman. Cayman Airways offers more non-stop flights to and from the Cayman Islands than any other airline. Now you can add Panama and Los Angeles to your travel bucket list. Skip the hassle of connecting flights. Panama is just a 2-hour non-stop flight from Cayman. And Los Angeles? Get there in less than 5 hours non-stop aboard Cayman Airways. Call 949-2311 or visit CaymanAirways.com to book your Los Angeles or Panama getaway today.
Did you know that you can send money transfers to financial institutions anywhere in Jamaica with JN Money?
You mean I can send money straight to my account and cut out the middleman?
Yes, that's exactly what I mean. You send your own money to your own account, giving you peace of mind that the money is in your account.
JN Money Transfers to Financial Institution is another convenient service offered by JN Money. You can have this done from any JN Money location. Deposit your money straight to your account without the hassle of asking someone to do it for you. JN Money Transfers to Financial Institutions, making life easier.
System 1 loaded.
1-800-534-8255. What is on your mind when it comes to the government, independence, and the opposition? Issues that matter to you. 1-800-534-8255. Waiting to hear from you. For the Record.
This is For the Record with Orrett Connor.
Good morning. Welcome back to For the Record. We're talking about the upcoming hurricane season, which starts tomorrow, the 1st of June. In the studio with me, we have Mr. Henry Ebanks, who's the station manager for the Cayman Islands Fire Service. We have Mr. Shamal Clark, who's a meteorologist at the National Weather Service. We also have with us Superintendent Roger Williams from the Royal Cayman Islands Police Service. Commandant of the Cayman Islands Coast Guard, Mr. Commander Robert Scotland. We also have Mr. McLaughlin from the Cayman Islands Airports Authority and Lieutenant Colonel, or how do you say it? Colonel? Roger Clark, who's the commanding officer for the Cayman Islands Regiment. And before we went to the commercial break, I sort of prepped Mr. Clark in relation to the regiment and the collaboration with other regiments throughout the overseas territories.
So that's a very interesting question and very timely, because I just actually came back from a meeting of all the commanding officers of the various overseas territories, which include in our area Montserrat, Turks and Caicos, and Bermuda, but Gibraltar was also there, as well as the Falkland Islands. And we discussed, among other things, mutual support for each other. So just to answer the question, first is that the government is responsible for making that request to anyone outside of the Cayman Islands to come to assist us.
Right.
But as you said, during Ivan, the Bermuda Regiment was there, but now we have other help. I mean, Turks and Caicos, which started around the same time as we did, also have some capacity now. And, I just want to broaden out in the fact that I think when we have a hurricane or some other major disaster, there are lots of other players that we can expect to get assistance from. I mean, there's a whole plethora of UN agencies and other NGOs and who we will expect to see when any hurricane occurs, and those things really are initiated by a request from the government for assistance. And you find that those kinds of organizations are always ready. In the Caribbean, during hurricane season, there's normally a ship from the British military, and the same will be here this year as well. We've already had some discussions about that. So there are a lot of resources set up waiting to assist us if we have a challenge, and it's just for the government to make that request for assistance.
Okay. Commander Scotland, I'd like to talk a little bit about the tools that each of these entities have at their disposal. Mr. Carter spoke about the ship, the UK ship that is in the area during the hurricane season. Sometimes they have a helicopter on board. We do now have 2 helicopters here in the Cayman Islands, and there are probably several private helicopters, as well. I think there was also something in the news recently where the regiment has gotten some new vehicles. Have you?
Well, we continue to increase our fleet of vehicles as best as we can. The latest vehicle we got is very important for disaster relief, and that's a wrecker.
Okay.
So we've got a military grade wrecker that can move most things.
Okay. So, Commander Scotland, if we could talk a little bit about the tools that each of these entities have at their disposal.
Well, I think it would actually be better if the if the entities with the specialized equipment actually spoke in detail about those.
Sure.
We can start with fire, who are key in search and rescue.
Definitely.
Yeah. Well, like I said earlier, we actually have inflatable boats that assist us in low-lying areas. Also, within our cluster, we also have the National Roads Authority, so we can use their equipment. Then we got HEVO, which is a heavy equipment operators organization. So we use those. So we have those in our cluster that we can ask for assistance.
Okay. Now we know CA doesn't have a whole lot, but we do have Cayman Airways at our disposal, as well. Mr. McLaughlin.
Mr. O.C., I'm so glad you said that, because all Caymanians need to be proud that the national airline is the one that we can count on. I've seen flights coming from different places get halfway and turn around when they hear the word hurricane. And the national air carrier, Cayman Airways, flies right up to the minute. Yeah. Sometimes we have to say sorry, but the runway or it's not safe for us to operate anymore before they decide to, tuck tail and put the plane somewhere else. But we do at the airport. We maintain a maintenance section, and we just got a brand new some equipment. Not an excavator. Slipped my mind.
Front end loader?
No, forklift. Not a forklift. The small machine. Backhoe. Sorry. I can see it in my mind. It just came in the last couple of days. But we do maintain enough equipment to clear our runway, because that is the most important asset that we have there at the airport besides our people. We want to make sure the runway ends at the sea. And certainly there'll be some storm surge, throw stuff up on the runway. So we maintain the equipment to ensure that we can get the runway operating as quickly as possible.
Okay, while we still have you on the mic, one of our listeners has written in and said that the problem with evacuation of workers who are earning minimum wages or a little more than that is that the financial burden of evacuation of those would be on the government, as the government has removed the repatriation fee. And probably even if the repatriation fee was still in place, it probably wouldn't be sufficient, for you if you have to book a flight at the last minute, because we know that they're extremely costly. And if we can refer back to Hurricane Ivan again, we saw where, all and sundry were just coming and they were, putting people's names on the manifest, and they were leaving. We saw the United States, for instance, extend a real helping hand to us, and people were allowed in there with the bare minimum of identification, as well. But this writer really has a point in that regard, and we wouldn't want to tip our hand and say, well, if push comes to shove, we will do that again. What advice, if any, do we have for those persons who may find themselves in a very difficult or vulnerable position when it comes to very quickly purchasing a ticket to leave?
And the assistance from external organizations, we would expect that to also be available in the event of a devastating storm. But I can also say that we just confirmed yesterday, which is always true of the national airlines, that remember they have a no price gouging policy when it comes to hurricane relief. And they confirmed yesterday that so what each person should do is at least have the minimum fare to get to where they want to go, Miami, or so to speak, right? Make sure you have that minimum fare, because you will be able to purchase a ticket.
Okay.
I think going back again, that is something important, and it should form part of your hurricane preparedness plan. Not only hurricane preparedness, you may have situations, especially if you're not from here, where at the last minute you may have to leave due to an emergency, and you should have sufficient funds to get you to where you need to go. The other thing is, I think every entity has taken lessons learned from Ivan and have put in place mitigation plans for those. While Ivan sticks in our mind because it was quite a memorable experience, we forget that we've had a number of hurricanes since then that have forced us to put into practice those things that we practiced or that we learnt from Ivan. So again, I think all of the entities around the table have collectively taken that information on board and implemented their own contingencies.
Okay, Ms. Susan, we're going to come to you with a commercial break. Just want to prep this in advance when we return. Not only do we have more persons on the island when we compare Hurricane Ivan in 2004 to now, but the number of vehicles as well. And those vehicles that managed to survive after Hurricane Ivan, when the owners of those vehicles were leaving the island because everyone was leaving in such a frantic situation, they were just parking them on the side of the road, blocking roadways or whatever. Curious to know what we have in place for that, because the problem has compounded itself now as a result of the number of vehicles that we have in the island. Folks, please stay tuned for the record. We'll be back shortly.
Since March 2004, West Bay Pharmacy has kept their doors open to the local communities, even before, during, and after Hurricane Ivan. At West Bay Pharmacy, our staff provides so much more than pharmaceutical excellence. From the moment you walk through our doors to completing your cash out, our staff will have put your healthcare concerns at ease. We would like to take this moment to thank our loyal friends and customers. To us at West Bay Pharmacy, our patients are our primary concern. We provide thorough background checks and precise calculations to ensure your medical safety. Thank you for being a part of our family and for choosing West Bay Pharmacy, where we care about your health.
Ensuring your existing appliances and equipment are cleaned and maintained regularly is an easy way to improve energy efficiency in your home.
Have your air conditioning equipment serviced by a professional. Make sure bathroom and kitchen exhaust fans and refrigerator coils are cleaned regularly, because the harder your appliances have to work, the higher your bills will be.
The do-it-yourself energy audits on energy.gov.ky make it easy to find ways to save energy and money in your home or business.
Complete an energy audit of your home or business before 31st of May 2023 to be entered into a prize giveaway. Prizes include a $5,000 gift certificate to Home Gas and gift certificates to Cooling Pros, Foam Pros, Cossy Less, and Foster's.
To learn more, visit energy.gov.ky today and follow the National Energy Policy on Facebook and Instagram.
Can you imagine your home completely organized? At Brand Source Custom Closets, we can. We specialize in designing and building custom closets and storage units for any room in your home, including the garage, with tailored designs and custom LED lighting solutions to fit your lifestyle and budget. Our custom closets expert is committed to enhancing the value of your home with a solution that is uniquely yours. Visit our showroom or call 623-6774 to schedule a no-obligation appointment with our design expert. Brand Source Custom Closets, 209 Dorsey Drive, Industrial Park.
You deserve a unique vacation this year, one with easy non-stop flights from Cayman. Cayman Airways offers more non-stop flights to and from the Cayman Islands than any other airline. Now you can add Panama and Los Angeles to your travel bucket list. Skip the hassle of connecting flights. Panama is just a 2-hour non-stop flight from Cayman. And Los Angeles? Get there in less than 5 hours non-stop aboard Cayman Airways. Call 949-2311 or visit CaymanAirways.com to book your Los Angeles or Panama getaway today.
Tune in every Monday through Friday at 12 p.m. for Radio Cayman's Midday Newscast. Radio Cayman, the People's Station, your trusted official source for the latest news. The 12 p.m. news is proudly brought to you by Health City Cayman Islands. World-class healthcare within your reach.
For the record, with Orrett Connor.
Initiating system.
For information that matters. For the record, with Orrett Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning. Welcome back to For the Record. We're on the last leg of this segment of the show with the guests that we have in the studio. We have representatives from the Cayman Islands Fire Service, the National Weather Service, the Cayman Islands Airport Authority, the Royal Cayman Islands Police Service, the Cayman Islands Coast Guard, and the Cayman Islands Regiment. So we're going to go around the table to give each entity an opportunity for some closing comments, and during those closing comments, the persons who want to talk about the vehicles and what the plans are for those can do that at the same time. Just want to remind you, we just have about 8 minutes left, so we're going to share those 8 minutes amongst, 6 persons? Let's start with Fire.
Thank you, Mr. Connor. First of all, I just want to say thanks for having us this morning. I just want to encourage people, if there's a storm approaching, please just heed the warnings, especially if you're in low-lying areas, to evacuate. Go to the many shelters. If you don't know where the nearest shelter is, I'm sure there's websites, there's people you can call to get information where those shelters are. So just please heed those warnings.
Okay, Mr. Clark?
I think I'll just piggyback on that in terms of heeding those warnings, and just kind of reinforce the fact that we issue warnings because we mean it, not because we want to, or just willy-nilly feel like we should issue one. But it's a very serious decision that we make in order to protect lives and property. So just ensure that you have your hurricane plan in place. And for persons who've never experienced a storm before, if you need to go and do your research, pull up a video, pull up pictures. I'm sure there's plenty of scenarios out there that you could refer to at least get a glimpse of what is likely to occur, and just to reassure the public that we're doing everything we can at the National Weather Service to get as much information to you as possible. And I know sometimes translating what is happening meteorological wise to what the impacts are has been a shortcoming for some time, and we'll add to that so persons can put into perspective exactly what to expect. So now we'll add what the likely impacts of the events will be, so you have an idea, but still you should already have your plan in place way in advance of the event.
Certainly. Mr. McLaughlin.
On behalf of Mr. Anderson, the chairman of the evacuation subcommittee, I would just like to remind everyone to heed the advice that we just got, to pay attention to the warnings. Make sure your travel documents are up to date and readily available, and do not wait to the last minute to try to book a flight or get on standby. The reservation for that day of travel is going to be key in getting off the island at that point.
Okay, Mr. Williams.
Thank you. So just from the question in relation to vehicles being left at the evacuation stage, so we have the agreement with the CIAA and a few of the towing companies that at the evacuation stage, if persons unfortunately leave vehicles obstructing traffic and obstructing the roadway, then we will take those vehicles via the tow truck and have a process in place of how we dispose of those vehicles. Again, just echoing my colleagues, plan, prepare. If you know that you're going to be departing the island, have a plan in place for the vehicle. We have to ensure that the evacuation process is streamlined, and then we also have to ensure that when we talk about the environment, we have to also ensure that the environment is kept, because obviously post-hurricane it's a major cleanup effort, and we don't want persons to add to that by leaving vehicles all over the island.
Okay, Commander Scotland, I'm going to let you have the last word, so we're going to go to Colonel Carter.
Thank you, Mr. Connor. I think it's all been said. I just want to say one thing, and that is to thank the members of the regiment and the other emergency services who really give their effort, put their lives at risk to make sure that we are safe here in the Cayman Islands. So I just want to say a public thank you.
Commander Scotland, you have the last word and the longest.
It'll be true to form. It'll be short and sweet. Just echoing what everybody else has said, I'd also encourage people, review your plan, your hurricane plan, your disaster plan. If you don't have one, it's not too late to begin to create one. There are tools out there to help you. Monitor the weather station closely. Cayman Prepared, National Weather Service, Radio Cayman, and all of the other media houses or outlets that are there. Echoing what Colonel Carter said, a big thank you to the emergency service personnel, the team, because it is a team effort. At the end of the day, no single entity can fix the problem or respond to the problem without the support of each other. So again, we pray for the best, but we prepare for the worst.
Okay, one last question that we had, and I think we may have enough time for it as well. Person wants to know, during, let's say, a hurricane, where are all of these various entities housed? And the question is, do we have a center that has been established for disasters and hurricanes? I believe we still use the government administration building that has been purpose-built for that, but you can speak to that as well.
So to answer the question, I think I may have mentioned it at the beginning, with the onset of any natural disaster or national disaster, the National Emergency Operations Center is activated, and that center sits within the Government Administration Building. All of the gentlemen around the table here, as well as all of the other emergency, all of the other clusters and the emergency support teams, they all situate in there. It's basically your command and control for incident response across the islands.
Okay, and basically you guys are your representatives living there during the period of the emergency. Yeah. I take it as well.
From the time the NEOC is activated, National Emergency Operations Center, until the all clear is given, it's staffed 24 hours a day for the duration.
Okay, gentlemen, I want to thank you all for being here. I want to thank you and your organizations for all that you do to keep the people of the Cayman Islands informed, to keep them safe as well. And Mr. National Weather Service, we look forward to a very, very inactive hurricane season. Folks, top of the hour headline news. When we return, we will have other representatives in the studio, so please stay tuned for the record. We'll be back after headline news.
Radio Cayman, maintaining the innovation.
On a daily basis, making it easy to connect with you, our listeners. Add us to WhatsApp today, 925-3261. That's 925-3261.
Radio Cayman.
Send a text or voice note.
Can I send a request, please?
You don't really have to ask us. Just send a request.
This is a shout out to my ex.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
Radio Cayman, maintaining the innovation.
89.9 Radio Cayman helps you to weather the storm during this hurricane season.
One of the most crucial elements of hurricane preparedness is storm awareness. During the season, it is of utmost importance to pay attention to the latest local weather forecasts, as hurricanes do not suddenly form or strike. There are various methods of advanced notification. Utilizing such may be the difference between a favorable outcome and disaster. Both television and radio serve as excellent mediums with up-to-the-minute storm path information in the wake of a hurricane. Another method of tracking a hurricane may be only arm's length away. Your smartphone or tablet can be your most valuable tool before, during, and after a storm, providing countless numbers of apps with crucial hurricane information. Many apps allow you to track storms with moving radar and satellite imagery, plus offer alerts, current conditions, forecasts, advisories, and even video.
This hurricane preparedness tip was brought to you by your community radio station, Radio Cayman 89.9 FM.
Follow Radio Cayman on Twitter. All the latest information, breaking news, community events, and more. Follow us at twitter.com/Radio Cayman.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman, your voice, your choice.
Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
The Headline News is brought to you by Health Services Authority.
The opening ceremony for the third Cayman Islands Biennial is tonight at 6 p.m. The multi-site Tri-Land exhibition project will feature works by over 40 local artists. You can RSVP by emailing events at nationalgallery.org.ky. North Korea has said an accident happened as it planned to send up its first space satellite, causing it to crash into the sea. Pyongyang announced earlier it planned to launch a satellite by June 11th to monitor U.S. military activities. It now says it will attempt a second launch as soon as possible. The launch sparked a false alarm in the South Korean capital Seoul, while in Japan a warning was issued to residents of Okinawa in the south. And a hardline Republican revolt not prevent legislation to raise the U.S. debt ceiling from clearing its first procedural hurdle in the House of Representatives Tuesday night. Two parties finally reached a deal after a showdown lasting months and weeks of painstaking negotiations. Now the two leaders, Democratic President Joe Biden and Republican Speaker of the House Kevin McCarthy, must sell their weakened agreement to their members of Congress. They believe that even with some defections on the left and right, they have the votes to pass the bill before the deadline. Those are your headlines. I'm Karsley Fuller.
For the latest in news and information,
follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky.
The Headline News are brought to you by Health Services Authority.
Health Services Authority is now offering online payment options for patients. Patients of HSA can now pay their bills, including deposits, towards scheduled services online at payments.hsa.ky. The secure, new online payment system accepts debit or credit cards and is in addition to the available payment options of cash, check, and online bank transfer. For quick, easy, and secure payment directly from your phone or computer, visit HSA's new online payment system at payments.hsa.ky.
For the record, with Orrett Connor.
Initiating system. For information that matter. For the record, with Orrett Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record as we discuss the upcoming hurricane season, which starts tomorrow, the 1st of June. So we have another panel that has been established in the studio to talk about hurricane preparedness as well. And we also have Mr. Simon Boxall from Hazard Management Cayman in the studio. And I'm going to keep him for as long as I can as my co-host. And first of all, have him introduce all of the gentlemen that we have around the table. Simon, over to you.
OC, thanks again for having us on. We really appreciate it. So immediately to my left, we've got Mr. Mark Codling, who's our hazard mitigation specialist at Hazard Management Cayman Islands, doing a lot of important work. And then Mr. Keith Beckley, who's fairly new to hazard management, but is working on the business continuity or continuity of operations planning especially for government. The focus, make sure key functions continue through a disaster. And then across from me, Mr. Dan Powell.
Yeah. No stranger.
No
stranger whatsoever.
And he's very key in our shelter program, but also he's the Operations Response and Recovery Officer.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Mr. Will Pinot, who everybody knows.
Never heard of him before.
Mr. Will. And he has a very important role in the National Emergency Operations Center structure. He looks at the economic continuity. Obviously, we want to keep our economy going after an impact from a hurricane and not flood the market with free stuff, but obviously look out for people in the beginning. So yes. Thanks.
Okay, so where do we want to start? You want to do a little intro?
Yeah, I would just say as we sort of begin another hurricane season, obviously it's an anxious time for people, but there's lots that we can do to make sure that we can get through safe. I think so many people lost documents and all sorts of possessions and things like cars in past hurricanes like Ivan. But with a little bit of planning and preparedness, we can get through safely. And I'm sure these guys are going to talk about some of those things. But obviously, we have our website, Cayman Prepared. We're willing to come to your business, your church, your NGO, anywhere to do hazard awareness presentations, day, night, public holidays, weekends. Hazard management's there. And we are seeing flooding today on our roads. The season is here, and we were just over in the Sister Islands a couple of days ago, and they're preparing well too. And Dan's going to talk about some of the work he just did over there to get people ready. So yeah.
Okay. Well, why don't we go over to Dan, because we have in our discussion this morning we've talked a lot about Grand Cayman. We didn't talk a little much about the Sister Islands as well. So tell us what's been going on over there.
All right. So like what Simon said, a team of hazard management along with district admin, we're working together to actually get their teams ready for this hurricane season. So the training consists of 5-hour training, basically talking about responsibilities, roles, expectations of what you'll expect in a shelter. Mm-hmm. So the Sister Islands very unique because also they're limited to resources. They're not like here. And they rely heavily on us. So they understand their mechanisms to the best that they can. So obviously they know their background. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So we're there just showing them the best practices in the shelter management or in the shelter operations. Like I said, the shelter capacity for Cayman Brac right now is Cayman Brac and Little Cayman is 50% of their population. So that's pretty good compared to over here where it's very small, about 7 to 8%. Obviously the population's been increasing. But that's about it. In this training, what we do, not just the roles and responsibilities, but having the managers, the teams, have a clear expectations of what they're going to expect in a shelter, meaning the individuals that are coming, what they should bring. Example: water, trays of water, food, non-perishable items, flashlight. If they have kids, we highly recommend having entertainment for the kids. So in that essence, that's what we're doing for the last couple of days. And we were also working with the schools doing our hazard awareness presentations, making sure that, hey, every school has a plan in place and just exercising that plan.
Okay. I'd like you to talk a little bit about the importance of Rebecca's Cave. We hear talk about that, but also in the event that, let's say, Grand Cayman is more devastated in a hurricane, let's say, than Cayman Brac, or vice versa. What are the plans? Are there plans in place in terms of relocating persons from one island to the other? We have seen it happen in the past. So have we firmed up those procedures?
Yes. In essence, those kind of plans are reviewed constantly by our preparedness team. And also what we're doing, we're encouraging in the NEOC, we'll have a joint approach to handling any situation. So if there's an event that needs to be evacuated, then we'll work accordingly. But the plans are in place. And there's a good understanding between the SIEC and the NEOC, which they fall under the NEOC, shall I say, be more specific.
So just to add, the SIEC is the Sister Islands Emergency Committee. So that's basically a scaled-down mirror image of the National Emergency Operations Center structure. So yes, as Adan said, they work hand in hand. When the NEOC activates the Sister Islands, and we saw it work pretty well in Paloma, and Mr. Mark Tibbett seems to really have got a good handle on it. He's obviously taken on from Mr. Ernie Scott, who was in that position for many, many years, but he was always side by side with Mr. Scott, so he knows the whole mechanism.
Sorry if I could chime in there. A lot of, for the listening audience, so the NEOC is the National Emergency Operations Center, and the whole gist of it is for one government, one voice. Meaning, although if I'm correct me if I'm wrong, it's 148 departments, and once the NEOC is activated, we have 19 departments to work with. So in that sense, we condense and we try to solve the crisis at hand during that time.
Okay. Let's hear a little bit more about hazard management from Mr. Codlin. Morning, sir. Welcome to For the Record.
Morning, sir, and morning to your guests as well. Just quickly, and just to add to the team, one of the key things for preparedness and planning is the whole aspects of using the technology. And one of the things we have been pushing, of course, in recent times, March 2022, we launched the National Notification app. That's via BlackBerry ad hoc. We encourage persons to download. Visit our website at nens.gov.ky. If there's any challenges, please feel free to reach us to us at nens@gov.ky email address. One of the key initiatives right now we're looking at, and we'd have seen that today with the flooding on the roads.
Yes.
We're trying to incorporate some real-time system, working with a series of stakeholders currently. We're in a pilot stage of introducing what we call flood sensors. So what we're trying to do is use technology as relates to Internet of Things. So in real time, we're able to see what will be the flood depth in a particular area or community that's probably flood prone. So we're still in the conceptual stage. We're working with for example, with National Roads Authority, one of our key stakeholders, of course, the National Weather Service, and obviously working close with our ministry as well, of Sustainability and Climate Resilience. So the important thing is collecting data really gives us the advantage to really able to predict and to make persons aware and properly plan in accordance, not just for hurricanes itself, but even if you have extreme rainfall events as well.
Okay, talk a little bit about mitigation.
Yeah, so Mark.
Good morning, welcome.
Good morning,
For the Record.
Keith Beckley. Yeah, so Mark's our mitigation man, so he's obviously the key for all of that. But I'm responsible for keeping government, or ensuring government is doing what we're preaching. We want our public to be safe, and that's what we're all working towards. But in order to do so, we need to know that government is in the right place to do that. So my role is to ensure that the continuity of business within government is right. That, for my standard so far, is to make sure that all our internal plans are up to date, that people are understanding what their business is within each department, that everyone has the right idea for what they should be doing, how they should be maintaining their roles, what the critical functions are within each department. what their objectives are to return to business after an event. So we all know where we are, what we can do, and at what stage we need to bring in outside help if that's required. So it's a lot about planning. It's a lot about the preparation. All of this overlaps, so that everything that we do all overlaps into each other's team, and we work together really closely to make sure that works. So whilst we're only a small team of 9, we try to pack a punch and work across the teams as best we can. For me, it's a lot of desk work. It's a lot of listening to what people have got in writing. We are aiming to move that forward and trying to get an internal system, an electronic system within government to make that work better and make it work better for everybody, but to produce better plans and better preparation. But that being said, we're not just about the government. We're looking to work outside of government as well. Work with Will and other colleagues to try and make sure that the local public, local businesses can still perform, have some idea about their continuity of operations, to make sure that their businesses have a plan, which may include insurance plans, may include moving or secondary sites, that sort of thing. So yeah, but a lot of work goes on. It's all a work in progress, as always. Everything's fluid.
Yes.
But we are definitely doing our best to try and make the country safe.
Now, Ms. Susan, we will take a break, but I'll prep you for this when we return. What have we learned from the COVID pandemic that we can take that and transfer those experiences into other natural disasters and the type of systems that you're talking about, having in place? How has COVID, to a certain extent, assisted you in conceptualizing some of the things, or knowing, developing some of the things that need to be done, not only in a pandemic situation, but let's say for hurricanes or other national disasters as well. Definitely. So we'll take a commercial break. When we return, we'll hear a little bit more from you, and then we'll go over to Mr. Chamber, Mr. Will Pino as well. Folks, please stay tuned for the record. We'll be back shortly.
At Doctor's Hospital, we know life happens, and usually when you least expect it. So when unexpected medical issues arise, you need quality care close to home. Located in the heart of Georgetown, our accomplished team of physicians and medical staff treat minor urgent conditions such as migraines, chest and abdominal pain, shortness of breath, burns, broken bones, open wounds, and more. 24 hours, 7 days a week with no appointment necessary. Peace of mind is important when life happens. At Doctor's Hospital, we're always here just for you. Need to speak to someone? Call 949-6066.
She hear clunk and her car stop. I was just about to send her some money, so I send it straight to her JN Money Transfer card. It cost me less, and perhaps she use the card, pay the garage right away. She'll get discount through the JN Rewards program in Jamaica. This card make things easy. You can even get funds at any multi-link ATM.
JN Money Transfer Card. Fast, affordable, convenient. Tell your loved ones in Jamaica about it. Sign up is free.
West Bay Pharmacy. Personalized medicine, customized care to meet your specific needs. Your body is unique to you. Your medicine should be too. Whether you're seeking individual-specific medication, correct size dosages, or simply better tasting medicine, ask your pharmacist or healthcare provider about how compounding at West Bay Pharmacy can increase your treatment options, not only for your family, but for your pets too. West Bay Pharmacy, open Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 8 p.m., Sundays and most holidays from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m.
At Kirk's Home Center, we can make your life much better. We got it all together. We got a great deal in store for you. From cookware to stereos, from power tools to plumbing supplies. Yeah, we got the best goods with the best price, and a service to make you smile. At Kirk's Home Center, we got a great deal in store for you.
The Ministry of Sustainability and Climate Resiliency wants your feedback on the draft National Climate Change Policy. The Cayman Islands is experiencing impacts of climate change, like sea level rise, changes to rainfall patterns, and temperature increases. A national climate change policy is essential to ensuring a strong economy, safe communities, and healthy ecosystems. Download the draft policy now at gov.ky/climate change policy. Send us your feedback by Friday, the 30th of June. Log on to gov.ky/climate change policy today to learn more.
For the record, with Orrett Connor.
Initiating system.
For information that matter. For the record, with Orrett Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning. Welcome back to For the Record. We're talking about hurricane preparedness in the Cayman Islands. Of course, the hurricane season officially starts tomorrow, the 1st of June. The conversation is taking place with Mr. Mark Codlin, Mr. Dan Powell, Mr. Will Pinot, and Mr. Keith Beckley, and my co-host in the studio with me this morning, none other than Mr. Simon Boxwell. I'm not sure whether or not we'll send him back over to Hazard Management or we'll just keep him here at Radio Cayman as well. So before we went to the commercial break, lessons learned from COVID situation and how can we take them and apply them to other natural disasters as well.
Okay, so speaking out of turn a little bit, because I wasn't here for COVID, I was in quarantine on my way across it. But a lot has come out of the COVID situation for us, and across all of business continuity across the world. Everybody works to a different tune nowadays because the opportunities that came to light, including mainly, I would suggest, working from home, distance working, silo working, in regards to individuals having to work on their own at home. And the effects that had on some people were quite stressful in some situations. But the opportunities to work from home were massive, and they made sure that businesses could continue. Within government, especially here, a lot of people were working from home. A lot of people were able to manage their day-to-day business without real disruption to the general consensus of what was needed to be done. That being said, my role isn't to just make sure that those little things that we picked up during that period continue, but to maximise the opportunities from that. Mm-hmm. So to understand what's good, what works well, what doesn't work well. And the plan is to develop not just reaction to individual responses, but to get to the picture where we know what our critical functions are and how those critical functions need to be prioritised to be returned, and then making sure that they are the focus rather than the event being the focus. So rather than having this massive fire is causing us problems, we know how to respond to that because we've got our critical functions in order, we've got our priorities listed, and we're going to respond to those, maximising the number 1, 2 and 3, and then maybe 6, 7 and 8 aren't as important, so we can dismiss those until we're back to normal strength. So it's a lot about thinking about the bigger picture rather than the attack that you've got coming towards you at that time. That's the way we're trying to work.
Okay, Mr. Pinot, we know, and I always like to refer to Hurricane Ivan because that was, one-in-a-kind event in the Cayman Islands. I would imagine, other than the 1932 storm, no other hurricane has been talked about in the Cayman Islands like Hurricane Ivan. We know the importance of businesses in the Cayman Islands, small and large as well. We know what we went through after the hurricane. Of course, everyone wants to get up and running, but sometimes we always have to prioritize and decide, where we pay most attention and who we prioritize as far as getting them up and going as well. A huge challenge, but I'm sure that we have it all worked out by now. Tell us about it.
Well, I think my role on the NEOC is I chair the economic continuity. And obviously there's a disaster, any disaster that happens after the disaster, there's the cleanup, but the most important aspect for me is making sure that businesses can get up running as quickly as possible. And for them to get back up running as quickly as possible, they have to prepare for that. So some of the advice I'd give to businesses, first and foremost, is make sure your insurance is up to date and that you have the contact with the person that's going to come and inspect your property immediately. Because that'll be vitally important for your business, especially if you had significant damage. The number one priority is obviously the staff. So as a business, you should have a contact tree in your organization, making sure that you have mobile numbers, physical locations of all your staff, making sure that there's somebody in your organization, no matter how large it is, who's responsible for not only contacting your staff after the storm, but during the storm as well, if there's any critical things that happen, and notifying authorities. And then the other thing is to make sure that after the storm, you have some sympathy to your staff. I mean, at the end of the day, yes, a business is important. You can always rebuild a business, but you can't rebuild a life sometimes, right? And those people can be devastated. So your staff is most important, making sure that they get back up on their feet and their families are good. Then once that happens, we can get back to business and make sure that we can get our businesses back up and running. After Hurricane Ivan, there are a lot of lessons that we learned, one of which is power is important. CUC is essential for our community. And at the end of the day, making sure that you have backup generation if you're a large enough business. That means I found that in Ivan, I was getting frantic phone calls from businesses who were trying to load up on their fuel because they forgot to put some fuel in that generator, right? Or enough fuel to get them through. So make sure your generators you check them, you test them for those businesses that are able to have that ability. Make sure you have for families and even businesses sometimes places for food storage. You know, even a business can have contingency for some food for their staff when they come in the office. Remember, after Hurricane Ivan, many people, even at home, they didn't have sufficient food, but when they went to their businesses, they were actually able to get some food and different things. So those are just some areas that I really encourage. First and foremost, the other one is the banking. Before any disaster, you really should make sure that you have cash. You should have cash in hand. Now, it could be a few $100s, it could be a few thousand, whatever it is to keep you for about a week, at least a week after the storm. Because remember, the banks are going to be hit like everybody else. They have staff. They have to take care of their staff in order for them to get open again. All of that stuff, we have to make sure things align. So again, cash, food. Make sure your insurance company knows they have your phone number. You know how to contact them quickly, because that's, as you remember, after Hurricane Ivan, everyone's searching for somebody to do the inspection of their property and then to get the collection of those insurance money. Because again, I think it was 80% of our properties in Cayman received some sort of insurance money after Ivan, which was astounding, I think, because many other countries in this region, you wouldn't find that type of thing. That was one of the reasons why we were able to come back as quickly as we did after Ivan, because of the injection of capital into the market to repair the buildings, repair the homes, and get things back and up and running. Last thing I'd like to just simply say about getting yourself in touch with a reliable contractor or somebody you feel comfortable with, that you've done some groundwork, that you feel confident that that person knows what they're doing, and if you have to repair your home or your business, you have a reliable contact. Vitally important. Because after any disaster, particularly to property, it could be a flood, it could be anything. At the end of the day, you're going to have to rely on somebody to rebuild it, and you have to trust that person with the money you're going to give them. And if you don't trust or did your homework, unfortunately, you could get into trouble.
And we did see after Hurricane Ivan that the government took on a huge responsibility for those persons who were not insured at all and tried to get them dried, what we call dried in at that point in time as well. And there were substantial challenges there in terms of contractors, as well. And, we had situations where the homeowner and the contractor would come to an agreement and say, okay, I'll have you do this amount of work, but so that I can hold back on, you collect all of the money, but you give, something back to me, so all sorts of wheeling and dealing going on, which at the end of the day really put the homeowner in a more vulnerable situation. But can you speak a little bit more about insurance? Because while we had a substantial amount of money being injected as a result of insurance claims. There were some, I believe that there was one huge company that, because of legal issues, went on for several years, maybe 4 or 5 years before they were able to settle with their insurer. And we know on the private homeowner side of things that most people were being told that they were either underinsured. In many instances, they had never heard of the terminology before, and it was only after pressures that were placed on insurance companies that we actually saw, some satisfactory settlements taking place. So any advice that you can give in relation to those persons who have the financial wherewithal to put money aside in the event that they have to finance in advance what work needs to be done to get them back on their feet, up and running while they settle their insurance claims?
Well, my advice always for people who don't have a mortgage, because if you have a mortgage, you have to have property insurance. But if you don't have a mortgage and you own your own home, I always say that, just bear in mind, if you can afford it, whatever you were going to pay into the property insurance that you were doing when you had a mortgage, put it aside into a rainy day fund, right? You just never know, and that it builds up over the years, right? And most damage, we have good construction in Cayman for the most part, good damage, not good damage, but damage to your home, $50,000 can cover quite a bit. It can get you dried in with your roof, and it can do different things. My advice to people with insurance generally is to make sure your property is valued. Is properly, get the assessment done regularly. In the last 5 years, property values have increased dramatically in Cayman. Be honest with you, right?
Yes.
I can't just looking even my home when I had it assessed. I mean, I just couldn't believe what has transpired in the last 5 years. Say, so the controversy in Ivan was that we didn't really look under the covers a little bit to make sure the property insurance that we had was replacement value.
Yes.
Replacement value. We just assumed that it would be replacement value. No, it would go up to what was the insured. The property was based, your property is $1 million. It was based on what you said it was, and that's what we're going to cover you for. And remember all these other clauses that you have to look. What does it cover? Make sure it covers flood. Make sure it covers water and rain damage or whatever damage, right? And most insurance coverage does that these days. But a lot of people don't spend enough time. They spend more time planning their vacation than probably preparing for a possible disaster, which is unfortunate, right? At the end of the day, you have to make sure that you have cash on hand after a storm. Make sure you know where your insurance policy is. Make sure you know the number, that you can call them quickly. Make sure that your family's valuables are protected in some safety box or whatever. I mean, after Hurricane Ivan, I had a hurricane kit. That hurricane kit helped support 16 people in the house that I was in.
Wow.
No one else had a kit. Now, praise God that I was able to get the Hurleys. I worked with that family, and we were able to get additional supplies because of the Walker's Road supermarket being, there are a lot of problems there, as you know. So in any case, preparing is essential. And after the storm, though, for us to get back up as quickly as possible, again, just some of that advice I gave.
Thank you very much, Will, for that. Folks, we're going to take a commercial break. When we return, the conversation about the upcoming hurricane season will continue, so please stay tuned. I want to remind you, if you have any questions or comments, email them to us at fortherecord, one word, fortherecord, at candw.ky, or WhatsApp us 925-3261. Please stay tuned for the record. We'll be back shortly.
Washing your clothes in cold water can save you 90% of your washing machine energy usage.
Using LED light bulbs uses 75% less energy than regular bulbs, and they last 25 times longer. Keeping your appliances and equipment cleaned and maintained regularly will reduce your monthly electricity bill.
The do-it-yourself energy audits on energy.gov.ky make it easy to find ways to save energy and money in your home or business.
Complete an energy audit of your home or business before 31st of May 2023 to be entered into a prize giveaway. Prizes include a $5,000 gift certificate to Home Gas and gift certificates to Cooling Pros, Foam Pros, Cossy Less, and Foster's.
To learn more, visit energy.gov.ky today and follow the National Energy Policy on Facebook and Instagram.
What's that? No sugar, same amazing taste? Coca-Cola Zero Sugar is here to stay. Classic taste, pure satisfaction. Be sure to stop into any Tortuga location and get your own case of Coke Zero. Or grab an ice cold one straight from the cooler. Brought to you by Tortuga Distributors Limited. Coca-Cola, taste the feeling, Cayman.
At Doctors Hospital, we know life happens, and usually when you least expect it. So when unexpected medical issues arise, you need quality care close to home. Located in the heart of Georgetown, our accomplished team of physicians and medical staff treat minor urgent conditions such as migraines, chest and abdominal pain, shortness of breath, burns, broken bones, open wounds, and more. 24 hours, 7 days a week with no appointment necessary. Peace of mind is important when life happens. At Doctors Hospital, we're always here just for you. Need to speak to someone? Call 949-6066.
You deserve a unique vacation this year, one with easy non-stop flights from Cayman. Cayman Airways offers more non-stop flights to and from the Cayman Islands than any other airline. Now you can add Panama and Los Angeles to your travel bucket list. Skip the hassle of connecting flights. Panama is just a 2-hour non-stop flight from Cayman. And Los Angeles? Get there in less than 5 hours non-stop aboard Cayman Airways. Call 949-2311 or visit CaymanAirways.com to book your Los Angeles or Panama getaway today.
For the record, with Orrett Connor.
Initiating system. For information that matter. For the record, with Orrett Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning. Welcome back to For the Record. We're discussing the upcoming hurricane season in the Cayman Islands. We have representatives from Hazard Management Cayman in the studio with us as well. We also have Mr. Will Pinu, who plays an important role when it comes to natural disasters in the Cayman Islands, and his liaison with the government and the business community as well. Question that I have in relation to, we have a huge workforce here in the Cayman Islands. If we have sufficient warning about a hurricane and the strength and the intensity of it, there may be the need for evacuating not only tourists who are on the island, but residents as well, work permit holders as well. But we also have to have some plan for them to return, and if they're unable to return, then for business entities to smoothly or seamlessly bring people into the islands to help to rebuild. It's something that seriously needs to be looked at as well. That fall under hazard management as well, or otherwise? Mr. Codlin, anything you want to opine on that? Or
I'll put it on to the next content decider. Simon, if you want to talk about Keith.
Thank you for that, OC. And so, yes, we've seen quite a lot of the emergency support team leads this morning. You had a lot of the emergency response cluster earlier. So what you haven't seen today in the studio is the executive, National Hazard Management Executive, and the policy group.
Yes.
And so the executive is composed of very senior leaders of government, the governor, obviously, and the premier, financial secretary, attorney general. We saw the laws change very quickly in COVID-19. So they're tasked with making very important decisions. Some of these are practiced in exercises, just as you say. There are going to be constraints on labor. Typically, if we're needing to rebuild, I think you mentioned 80% of properties had insurance, but I mean, I think probably about the same percentage had damage. So there was huge amounts of debris to be cleared, the equivalent of over 2 years, I think, of debris to contend with. So labor, and then bringing supplies onto the island. I think the port was dealing with a massive increase in cargo coming through the port. So these sorts of decisions, you know, the executive moves together with the support of the policy group, and of course the emergency support teams will be providing input back and forth into the structure. But that whole NEOC mechanism is designed to kind of respond as effectively and efficiently as possible. So that is the sort of decision that will be made at the NEOC level in terms of whether or not we will suspend certain taxes on goods and supplies and so on. The other thing I wanted to get back to was Will's point about the insurance. I recently did a presentation for the Insurance Association, and they said a third of the population were actually underinsured. So I think that message that Will said about if you can get your property valued, there's a certain wiggle room. If you're like 15% under, they will probably let it go. But you might want to check your policy, because there's some policies you'll get nothing if you're below a certain threshold. And also checking that policy, some policies, like if you drive your car through floodwaters, and I know there's quite a bit out there today, you may not get insurance in some cases in some policies. So it's worth, as Will said, take a few minutes to prepare and check these things, because it can make a big difference. But you asked me a little, you mentioned a co-host role. You also, I'd like to ask you, because you were kind of at the pinnacle of kind of what was going on at the time of Hurricane Ivan. And I mean, what were you doing? What was your role? People probably interested in that, because it was important.
Well, my role at that time, I became cabinet secretary in 2003, and of course we had Hurricane Ivan in 2004, and then cabinet designated me and appointed me as the recovery manager for the Cayman Islands. So I was constantly having meetings with people like Will and getting input from them as well, something I had never done before, but with the assistance of other senior civil servants, we had persons like Mr. Mark Scotland, who worked with us, and I
think people said the Cayman Islands recovery was amazing. So you did an incredible job. I mean, like you said, it wasn't just you; lots of people were involved. But
everyone came together. I mean, that's the thing. That was a beautiful synergy. We all came together. We knew government was injured, so to speak. Its offices were damaged. I mean, the Chamber of Commerce became an epicenter for a lot of government offices at the time. The Labor Office was located in our place. We're placing workers. CUC and inspections began happening for electrical inspections in town, so our office was the epicenter for that. Thankfully, I had prepared before. I had called a local company. We had a generator. We had power within 48 hours of the storm at the chamber because of the generosity of Andrew Electric. They had a generator there for me, and we set up. We did so many things. Like we started in Hurricane Ivan. We did all of the getting cruise ships back up into the country. We wanted to get them as quickly as possible, so we did a cleanup, hired 450 workers, and took it from the Smith Bracadier. We cleaned from Smith Bracadier all the way to the Turtle Center, so that the cruise ship line could get back and see Cayman for what it was 2.5 months after the storm. So again, we all came together, and I think we've learned a lot of lessons. Government has invested heavily in your department, which is phenomenal. The office building that you're in is certified up to LEED standards. So a disaster going forward would be a little bit different. I would suggest, though, that I think government needs to really pay attention to the labor issue, because that was a serious issue even during COVID. Bringing back workers into this country, still some businesses still aren't fully recovered from COVID, and they're still trying to bring in workers. Many in the hospitality industry are still not at 100% from the workers that they had before COVID. So going forward in any disaster, we have to make sure the policies of the country for immigration make sense. And one of the reasons for that is if we evacuate 25% of the workforce, say, in a storm, well, many of those people will have work permits already. We want to get them in back as quickly as possible. We have to have a policy, which we probably do, to make sure that the types of people that we bring back for the recovery, the new workers, we can process them quickly for businesses. And that would include what is the process.
Okay, thanks for that. Well, one of our listeners says, can you ask your panelists about the storm and rainwater management plan for these islands. Do we have one? What do we do about all of our wetlands and drainage areas that are being filled in by developers? That's a...
I'll piggyback on the back of Mark.
Yeah, we can double. I think we can double and tackle that one.
Sure.
Sure. I think one of the key things we need to look at, one of the work we've been doing in the past, I would say year. So we're looking carefully at the land use changes. We work closely with several partners within government. And what I've seen, for example, from 1999 compared to 2021, and especially in the Georgetown district itself, you'll see significant change in the landscape. Of course, removal of land cover for construction building. What we have recognized from that, obviously there'll be impact in terms of water flow. The water itself takes the least part of resistance. So one of the key things we're trying to identify is what will be the impacts on properties. And as I mentioned earlier, the project that we're working on with the flood sensors is really just to understand the water depth in terms of the flow, but also in terms of if we have significant rainfall, how would a particular development, or we could see the changes in that landscape over the period impact properties. A key aspect to that, I would see that in some communities, if it's inundation or flooding due to, like recently we see like in North Southern States, when there's high tides, for us to monitor those situations and see in terms of when those high tides occur, we could notify residents, inform them accordingly. But obviously working close with our partners, Department of Planning, is critical. So one of the key elements is understanding the data, doing those analysis and gathering insights so we could support how we build and adapt as we see the impacts of climate change as well. And the increase in sea level rise is one of the critical issues for the Cayman Islands. And probably Simon could probably add to that as well. I know with the launch, and we're looking at the climate change policy, that is something that we encourage persons to come out and share their views and their inputs. So these are the forums in which we could actually exchange ideas and how we could proceed as a country.
Okay. Simon, before you answer that, what we're going to do is we're going to take our final break so we don't have to interrupt the train of thought before we reach the 10 o'clock hour, folks. We're going to take a commercial break. Please stay tuned. For the record, we'll be back shortly.
What's that? No sugar, same amazing taste? Coca-Cola Zero Sugar is here to stay. Classic taste, pure satisfaction. Be sure to stop into any Tortuga location and get your own case of Coke Zero. Or grab an ice-cold one straight from the cooler. Brought to you by Tortuga Distributors Limited. Coca-Cola, taste the feeling, Cayman.
There you go, sir. Thanks for choosing JN Money Transfer.
Boy, thanks to JN Money Transfer, I can stay right here in Cayman and pay mama bills back home in Jamaica. Her water, light, phone and other bills never late. Every month I pay everything in one place.
Make payments to over 30 companies in Jamaica through JN Money Transfer. Fast, affordable, convenient. Call 1-800-744-1163 for details.
What exactly are the steps in the STEPS 2023 National Health Survey? Step 1 is a questionnaire where you'll be asked about your health behaviors and lifestyle choices. Step 2 involves home measurements like height, weight, and blood pressure. Lastly, Step 3 is a finger prick blood sample for cholesterol and glucose. STEPS 2023 starts on June 3rd. Learn more by logging on to www.gov.ky/steps.
Your dream home starts with a vision, and often inspiration is at the heart of that vision. Brand Source Home Gallery's in-house designers are here to help bring your vision to life. Whether you're remodeling or building a new home, Brand Source Home Gallery is your one-stop solution. Explore their kitchen cabinets, sinks, faucets, bath fixtures, tubs, vanities, and more. Let Brand Source's designers help and inspire you with your next project. Call 623-5000 and schedule an appointment with a design expert at Brand Source Home Gallery, Dorsey Drive, Industrial Park, serving Cayman for 50 years.
For the record, with Orrett Connor.
Initiating system. For information that matter. For the record, with Orrett Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. We're talking about the upcoming hurricane season, which begins tomorrow, the 1st of June. That conversation has taken place with Mr. Keith Beckley, from Hazard Management Cayman, Mr. Will Pinot, Mr. Dan Powell, and Mr. Mark Codlin. So, Simon, I think you're going to respond as well to that question about what we're doing about all of our wetlands and drainage areas that are being filled in by developers. And then they say that that we need to be specific about it. It is a crucial issue, and that we need to stop kicking the can down the road. And I guess if you quit kicking the can down the road with shoes on, and if you're kicking it barefooted, you're going to feel it more if you're kicking it barefooted as well.
For sure. Yeah, that's a very good and important question,
Yes.
and it's something that hazard management. We see a lot of people clearing land. We were just over in Little Cayman Brack, and not building on it, just clearing it, and then those trees provide the buffer. Mark talked about the program with the sensors, with the Ministry of Sustainability is looking with the climate change policy at identifying critical wetland areas, because 80% of our properties are on septic tanks. We're just 7 feet above sea level. The sea is rising. Mark mentioned the Perigean tides covering the roads in North Sound Estates in the latter part of April.
Yes.
So there's two, from our perspective, there's the issue, the chronic flooding with sea level rising, and it's amazing, just that 3-foot rise in sea level, how that will dramatically increase the amount of flooding. So we're looking at that incremental, the contours, the 1-foot rise in sea level, which we anticipate in the next 30 years, combined with, so you got mean sea level, mean high tide, spring tides or perigean tides, which are probably another foot, so now you're 2 foot, and then another foot with sea level rise. So what are the implications of 3 feet of sea level rise? What percentage of Cayman is effectively underwater? Parts of it will be periodically. But then from our perspective, hurricanes, wave impacts, again, another flood threat.
Storm surge also.
Storm surge. So we need to get involved really in the planning development process from hazard management's perspective. It's about gathering data. We recently got the commitment from NOAA to do the storm surge model. So it's a credible source of information. We're going to be able to provide risk maps. Wave impacts too are going to be included. We're going to get the local tsunami model from NOAA, delivered in September. Mark's working on the chronic flooding issue. We need the data to, nobody's going to take us seriously if we can't provide scientific data. So it may not be popular, OC and Will even, but at some point, hazard management's going to provide a know your zone layer. What is your vulnerability to flooding? What is your vulnerability from your block and parcel or your business to wave impacts, storm surge, all these different threats. And some people say, well, maybe we shouldn't know, maybe that'll affect our insurance or property values. From our perspective, it's about public safety, people's lives, and we think people need to know this information to make informed decisions, so they can protect themselves and their families and their businesses. So that's where we're heading, and we need the data to provide the evidence to support the decision making, and then the policymakers can then. But flooding, you hear it all the time. People are worried about their neighboring property development because it affects the water pattern, the flood patterns.
Okay. Can we talk a little bit about shelter and shelter space? We continuously hear some of our listeners opine about the need for shelter. There are some people only, when was it, last Sunday, riding by. Someone was questioning in my cycling group, well, when is this shelter going to be ready in Bordentown, the one that's, part of a church? That may be challenging because you're not just building a shelter, it is, also, a church as well. So,
Yes.
there are things need
we're
to be
supporting the church as a backup, but like we said, in regards to Bordentown, it's a work in progress. We were anticipating that it would have been up and running by this hurricane season, but there have been some financial delays. Hopefully it's up and running by mid this hurricane season. But that is not just one site. that's not the only site that we're hoping to get online. We're also introducing the new John Gray building, which is built like a medical facilities. It's all encapsulated medical, just like a wing. Wings, a medical wing, classroom wings, technology wings, home economic wings, and that should bring us up to a good 4%, which is about 2,400 people. And that shelter calculation is based on 15 square foot. But I got to be clear with the listening audience also. 15 square foot is really small. So when you come to these shelters, please don't expect to be the same similar standard as the Ritz or the Kimpton. It would be a little sacrifice, but we have to look at it for the main objective, which preserve life. That is what the shelters are there in place. Sorry.
Bring food and drinks as well.
My apologies. I thought Simon was telling me something else. Yes. So from our standpoint, and Simon talked on it briefly about preparation, we have to instill that families are aware that, hey, we are prone to hurricanes here, because a lot of tourists and a lot of new individuals that come here, they don't realize that, hey, we're prone to hurricanes. So that is one way we're try to get out there, try to tell people, hey, speak with your HR, speak with your individuals, speak with your communities. We are prone to these things, especially if you're in a low-lying area. Make a plan. Don't wait till the last minute. Good example of that is food. We tend to say, hey, prepare for hurricane season. Buy all your food, all your rations prior to hurricane season, and we see the influx of people going when we declare, oh, we're in a hurricane warning. And I do understand food spoils really fast, but please have a plan in place. And when you come to a shelter, bring food and water to last you about 3 days. We have shelters divided in two categories. Categories A, which is Class A and Class B, were meant to open between 24 and 72 hours with, in mind, 15 square foot. And then Class B would be more of the recovery aspect of it, where it's more long-term, and that's calculated at 240. That way we're taking in consideration psychological needs, physical needs for individuals.
Okay, I want to give all of you an opportunity for some closing comments. So we have about 7 minutes to go. That should give us enough time. Starting with you, Mr. Wilpino.
Yeah, just again, prepare for the worst and hope for the best. And at the end of the day, I also say, just after any disaster, no matter what it is, make sure you have a plan in place for the recovery. Make sure you know your insurance provider. Make sure you have all your passports, all your information together, valuables. Make sure you take a little bit of cash out if there's any chance that there may be any interruption from the banks. And so, again, vitally important to prepare. Don't believe that we're invincible, because we're not.
Okay, Dan, over to you, and I'll incorporate a question into this. This person says, yes, shelter space is lacking. Can they say what are the many other churches offering those who were given huge sums of money for public halls some decades ago? I think most of that money, the nation building program, a lot of that money was actually returned to government after the whole fiasco and public outcry. So that money may not have been used for that purpose. But we know that you've spoken about the ones that are
currently coming online.
Yes.
So just to close off, I could only piggyback on what Will said. Preparation is key, but also in regards to preparation, staying informed. Also, we've created our mitigation channels to push critical information, and when we activated the NEOC, we're speaking for the whole island in essence. So if we could follow the right people, which is hazard management, the government, and staying informed, that's about it from my standpoint.
Okay. Yeah. Mr. Buckley?
I'll say one word 3 times. Communication. So communication is key. If something happens, we want everybody to make sure that we're all aware. That comes from yourself as well, obviously, our key communicator. Getting the message out, making sure that we're all on board. Make sure your neighbours are okay. Make sure the elderly are fine. We need to be a community. We need to work together. We need to make sure that everybody's informed and up to date. If we can keep talking, things can help. Looking after each other is the way forward, definitely.
Okay, Mr. Codlin.
Yeah, thank you. I would say the most important thing, be a brother's keeper. I mean, friends and family, and think about the vulnerable groups as well, the elderly, the young ones. So I think that's very important, especially for this hurricane season going forward. And having a plan in place is very critical. Nobody plans to fail. We simply fail to plan. So those are my few words. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Co-host, and if you can talk a little bit about some of the we will continue to keep the public aware to have these talks here and on other media platforms as well to keep the public informed not only about hurricanes but disasters in general as well.
Yes, thanks again, Uzi. Obviously, every year you kindly have us on. We're going to be on with Sterling tomorrow, another different group of people. And as you say, Radio Cayman has always been very key through Hurricane Ivan. I think people were tuned in, and if there's a serious threat coming, we will again come on, make sure that we have the guests to give people good advice, good information, and encourage people to do the right things. But yeah, from my perspective, we're really looking forward to getting the storm surge model, but it's still going to take about 1.5 years probably to give people a really good idea prior to an impact just how significant it can be. But that 8 to 12 feet of water that came up in Hurricane Ivan really startled a lot of people, and with about the equivalent of about 100 million vehicles in the U.S. being destroyed, about a third of our vehicles destroyed. These are things, a lot of them are avoidable if we prepare, maybe not stopping the water coming up in your house, but making sure you're not in a place where you could potentially drown little kids, elderly people. We've got to make sure that we get up high enough and heed the local advice from our National Weather Service and Hazard Management, Radio Cayman, all the Department of Government Communications. Like I said, our website, caymanprepared.ky, our Facebook and media, social media channels. But yeah, please make sure you find somewhere safe to ride out a hurricane and just get a bit of non-perishable food and water. These are the critical items that you cannot, they're non-negotiables. If you're not sure about your house, come up with a plan of where you're going to go. You can't depend on evacuation. There's got to be other options.
And be familiar with those shelters that are in your area, where they are, what you're allowed to do in them, because there are some shelters, for instance, I think that where pets are allowed as well.
Yes, sorry, I forgot to talk about it. So we have 2 pet shelters throughout the whole island. We have John Gray High School, the gym area, and then we also have Clifton Hunters. Sadly, it's only dogs and cats at this time. No iguanas.
No goats.
No goats, no horses. But we're hoping to get more in the next couple of years, or months, should I say.
Just to finish up, so storm surge is not just a coastal threat. If you're in a low-lying area, obviously the waves are another impact altogether, so that's another threat to think about. But if you're in a single-story dwelling in a low-lying area, in a certain hurricane situations, like a Dorian, which brought over 20 foot of surge to Marsh Harbor, Bahamas, that's a serious issue. If you're not sure about the height of your floor slab above sea level, reach out to Lands and Survey. You may have to pay a fee, but you can find out.
Yes. In regards to food and water, or a good template we have on our website at caymanprepared.gov.ky, where we have plans, also template plans, if you're not familiar with creating plans.
Okay, gentlemen, I want to thank you all very much. I want to thank you and your organizations for all of the work that you do to keep the people of the Cayman Islands safe as well. And some of you do that in addition to your regular 9 to 5, as well. Folks, I want to thank you for allowing Radio Cayman and by extension For the Record into your homes, into your vehicles as you traverse the busy roads of the Cayman Islands, into your places of work, wherever that may be. I also want to remind you that we are our brothers and our sisters' keepers. There is always someone out there who's less fortunate than we are, and I ask you to extend a helping hand to them. If you can't do that, then I suggest you donate to a worthy charity, because we always want to consider those who need, not necessarily those who want or even those who crave. So I say to you, have a great day. Continue to support your radio station, Radio Cayman. Join Sterling, Drainey Banks at 12:15 for Talk Today. And as usual, we ask the good Lord to bless these 3 beautiful, wonderful Cayman Islands.
For the Record, proudly brought to you by
Coca-Cola, available across the Cayman Islands from Tortuga distributors. Accept no substitutes. Taste the feeling with Coca-Cola. Brand Source Home Gallery, inspiring luxury. West Bay Pharmacy, taking care of your health. And JN Money. From abroad to yard. Fast, affordable, convenient. Doctors Hospital. Peace of mind is important when life happens. Doctors Hospital. Always there for you. Call 949-6066. And the Ministry of Sustainability and Climate Resiliency. Visit energy.gov.ky or follow the National Energy Policy on Facebook and Instagram. And by the STEPS 2023 National Health Survey. Visit gov.ky/steps to learn more. And Cayman Airways. Call them on 949-2311 to book your nonstop flights to Los Angeles and Panama.
From district to district, moving through the waters to Cayman Brac and Little Cayman. Your station, your voice. All things Cayman. One radio, many people. This is home.
Radio Cayman.